but guys aren't even in the portal, and everybody's tampering. Like they're begging, you're contacting people, asking them to get in the portal, and then trying to make it work. And then once they get in the portal, then everybody knows about it, and then everybody offers them. We got till Friday on this thing. Is that how long we're still in this nonsense?
Yes, sir. But, and then Miami and Indiana get to deal with it 5 days after the national championship game. So if we all want to just celebrate the fact that the transfer portal is technically going to have some openings until next week, let's do that, Bo, because this is all very fun.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. It's so much fun. How would you say Ohio State's doing right now in all this?
I think that from the outside, I understand that it is a tremendous amount of attrition, that it feels like Ohio State is underwater. That is not the sense inside the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. And whether that is real confidence, false confidence, I guess we're going to wait and see how this process plays out. But, there have only been a couple surprises at this point in terms of departures. There have only been, and some of this when it comes down to, they're missing out on a couple targets that they were aggressively pursuing. Some, I would say, the perception of those battles depends on your perspective if you're in the program or out of the program, because the information and the situation changes. So all of that is to say, Bo, that it is difficult, I think, to sit here and say, well, they're absolutely winning. The plan is going perfectly, because I don't know that no plan goes perfectly. I don't think it is one that has been viewed as a colossal failure. And the one thing I would say, like, if that is coming across like too optimistic, given the numbers and the needle that they have to thread here, I do think that Ohio State may have made it more difficult on itself by signing 28 kids in December in the signing period and committing that amount of resources. That may have been a part of the plan. That was an adjustment that they made to be more aggressive in building their roster with those high school seniors and filling it out, backfilling it in a lot of ways to prepare for the transfer portal. That may not have been an approach that is going to work moving forward, where you need to be paying players that are going to contribute right away. And so that has, I think, made the margin for error smaller than Ohio State might have anticipated in December. So again, that doesn't mean that the plan is going exactly the way they envisioned, but there's a plan B and a plan C that I think they have put into use that is probably working better than they're getting credit for.
Yeah, and this is the thing that I think especially around here, you just have to get used to. You're not going to get everybody that you want. Like
that's not happened.
No, it's over. That part is over. Like that is in the rear view. And what we have, I was earlier in the show, I just kind of went over top portal players and where they ended up. It's complete parity. They're all over everywhere. Like it's where you have money. Where are you worried about fit? Or are you worried about biggest paycheck? Some kids have different whys. Who knows? But you're never going to keep them all. And so, I think you want to keep your guys who matter the most first, and then build off from there, and then try to backfill it. And it seems like what they're trying to do. Is there who are a couple of guys in the portal that if from the Ohio State perspective, I'm talking about Buckeyes in the portal, that they're like, man. How did that happen? We really had a big plan for him next year.
Yeah, I think Aaron Scott remains at the top of that list. When Ohio State's been aggressive clearly here at safety and picking up Earl Little to play in the nickel spot and getting Terry Moore, to potentially fill the Caleb Downs role, as challenging as that is.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff I think was likely to happen no matter what, because those departures with Lorenzo and Caleb Downs were known. I think if you were building out a depth chart, a top three, a three-man rotation at corner, Aaron Scott was highly likely to be in that. Now, that puts you in this spot where the negotiations become more complicated. Do you think if you're paying Jermaine Matthews extensively, which that's what I think will happen. I don't know if Jermaine has publicly confirmed those plans or not, but we've thought for several months that Jermaine would be returning. If you have Devin Sanchez, he is also not playing for free. those become trickier. You have a limited amount of cap resources, and I know that there are people that hate that I say that because there is no actual hard limit on spending, but there is if you don't have a limitless amount of money and you have to allocate those resources. I think Aaron Scott and then replacing that at corner is probably more challenging than Ohio State would have anticipated. When you look elsewhere, I think based on what I said about Earl Little and Terry Moore, someone like Fahim Delane, a backup safety, his decision may be more tied to playing time and those guys coming in and ostensibly going straight to the starting lineup. So those, I struggle to find like true surprises. Quincy Porter, Mylan Graham, who, the door is potentially still open for him at wide receiver, Aaron Scott, Bryce West, those guys who are on the cusp, who spent, multiple seasons in the program and were even if they weren't were going to be key backups. That's where the difficulty lies. But when you're evaluating this, as of right now, Bo, on Monday, and there's 5 days to go of this chaos, like Tegra Shabola is technically the only starter that is in there. And maybe we would have been having a different conversation if the Bo Jackson negotiations and that contract had gone a different way last week. But to your point, this is the adjustment. If you are keeping your starting lineup and the majority of your backups, that is when we're talking about a philosophical shift for Ohio State, it is to an NFL-sized roster of players that are contributing for you, and then you're spending accordingly based off of that instead of having 65, 75 4- and 5-star players littering your depth chart. Those are the days that are well and truly gone.
They're totally gone. And that, just two bits of breaking news, one that's locked in. It looks like blueandgold.com reporting that Quincy Porter going to Notre Dame. He'd been kind of rumored there, but it sounds like he is committed there. There's a story already on 3 on that. And it sounds like Mylan, a lot of whispers that Mylan could be headed there too to Notre Dame. So that's part of it. I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine from Florida State, and he gave me some defensive end who wasn't even in the portal that he was hearing about was coming up here, Desir, something like that. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, what are we doing? This is what, just so the fans understand, you and I are knee deep in the muck on this, you even more so than me, but guys aren't even in the portal and everybody's tampering. Like, they're begging, you're contacting people, asking them to get in the portal and then trying to make it work. And then once they get in the portal, then everybody knows about it and then everybody offers them.
And there's another factor in that, because a lot of the tampering, Bo, is, the agents looking to see what the options are to then take that back to the negotiating table to the team where you already play.
Right.
So some of this is from the programs and trying to attack their roster, and some of it, and I would argue maybe even a larger portion of it than we realize, are the agents trying to get a feel, trying to find some shred of an offer elsewhere to then take that back to the conversation, to the place where you already play. And a lot of that stuff that you're hearing that is back channel, that is leaked, that amount of money is not real. Like some of these deals that they're taking to the table and say, well, this is what X is going to offer, you're going to need to match that or they're going. I know of a healthy handful right off the top of my head of guys who went to their school, asked for an amount of money, and then had to swallow their pride and take 40% or less of what they were asking for from their original school because they didn't want to go back and admit that they were wrong. And
yes,
again, that's anecdotal. I'm not saying that's happening in every single case, but if you're not a quarterback or a left tackle, like, you need to check out what the NFL pay scale is, and then that's where you need to figure out what your dollar sign and your worth is going to be, at least if you're dealing with a smart and fiscally responsible program, which that's the fifth part of this discussion that we're not getting to, is that some programs are just going to, go all in on one or two players that they think make a difference at one position and spend accordingly. That's Ohio State will lose some of these battles because they cannot afford to compete with 129 other programs at every second of every day throughout the year. They have to stick to their plan, and like I said at the start, if they execute it perfectly, no plan is going to be perfect. If they execute it to 70%, they're still going to have one of the 5 most expensive and best rosters in college football, period.
Yeah, And what you're going to have is a playoff that has a bunch of faces that are going to be turning over year after year. The days of the same 4 or 5 teams, it's over, and we have proof of that for next Monday night when we have Miami and Indiana of all teams playing for the national title. Hey, do you know where we were 11 years ago today?
11 years ago today. Oh, take me back to that, bro. That sounds
simpler
like
time.
Yeah, I mean, take me back to last week and put me in the Camelback instead. But it is funny though. We think about all this stuff, Bo, and what's going right, what's going wrong, the chaos for Ohio State. The 2 teams that are playing for the national championship are the only 2 teams that beat Ohio State. That's not bad. I nobody loves silver linings around here, but it is a reminder that the roof is still on the Woody, and they do seem to know what they're doing.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to follow this the rest of the week. I'm excited for it to be over so you can have a little bit of a breather, buddy. We'll talk again soon, my friend.
All right, appreciate you, bud. See ya.
All right, there he goes. Austin Ward, The Beat with Austin Berman.